Hello, my name is Lachlan, and today on Visa Games we will be rounding up the reviews and telling you some interesting facts and opinions on the PlayStation 4, which has recently been released in North America. It's been a strange launch for Sony, but have they got the scores they need for a successful launch? Without further ado, let's get underway. We're kicking it off with IGN, who has given the PlayStation 4 no score whatsoever, with this description. The embargo has lifted, and you're seeing reviews of Sony's new console pop up around the internet, but not on IGN. Rest assured, we do plan a full evaluation of the PlayStation 4 soon, and of the Xbox One shortly thereafter. But because these are the biggest and most important product reviews IGN has ever handled, we want to make sure we get it right. To simply put it, we think it's premature to put up a full review before the PlayStation 4 has formally launched. So much of the experience of using the generation of this console is online and social, and that needs to be evaluated in a live environment with other real gamers. Even the offline experience was heavily patched just last night, leaving insufficient time for what we feel would be an accurate impression today. Getting a full and accurate picture is a process that will take a considerable amount of live testing and much collaboration and conversation between our entire staff, who will all be using the systems exhaustively over the next couple of days. Now, IGN as a news service has an incredible amount of influence on what people do and what people say, and more importantly what they purchase, and the last thing they want to do is ruin a bunch of people's Christmases by giving them the wrong impression about both consoles, and more importantly, just wanting to be generally accurate in the first place. It seems fairly responsible of them not to put out scores so far, and a lot of the evolution of the PlayStation 4 is still to come. We're now moving on to Destructoid, another massive gaming media outlet, and they too have followed the same pattern as IGN without releasing a score whatsoever. However, they have left a brief description and conclusion as to how they feel about the PlayStation 4 and what they feel it's capable of. They left this: "If there's one thing that's apparent from using the PlayStation 4 over the last couple of weeks, is that Sony's been listening. This system shows that they've heard our problems with the PlayStation 3's XMB, and that they've heard our many George Foreman grill jokes. It shows that they know that game broadcasting is a rapidly growing segment of gaming. It shows that they understand how important being socially connected is. The $400 offering they've released in response is a sleek beauty with plenty of power under the hood to usher in the next generation of video games. While only a few of the launch games look to bring us beyond the current generation of console graphical power, it's clear there's enough power and potential to eventually get us to where we want to be." Destructoid finish up by saying, "Go get a PS4, Sony came out strong this generation, and the future looks bright for them." Although Destructoid didn't actually give us a score, they gave us a good understanding of what we need to know about the PlayStation 4. It's precise, it's got massive amounts of power, and it's ready for the next generation of games. Just the next generation of games isn't ready for it yet. There's lots of potential that's going to come out of the PlayStation 4, and that's what we're most looking forward to as gamers. Moving on, we see Engadget, who also didn't give us a score. However, they did give us a very brief, and when I say brief, I mean minimal conclusion, with lots and lots of pages to follow about the controller, hardware, and UI itself. This is what they had to say. "Sony's fourth PlayStation console is fast, sleek, and powerful. Its new DualShock controller is the best gamepad Sony's ever made, and the console is just getting started." Now, that's a lot of description from Engadget, and the pages beforehand did have a lot of description as to how powerful and how good the PlayStation 4 was. The vibe was generally positive, which is always a good thing considering they do want a successful launch and they want the review scores from everywhere that they can get them. And Engadget certainly follows that pattern. It's a great system and it has lots of potential, just the games and the library aren't really there yet for it. Moving on now to Stuff TV, who are the first team to actually give us a score, which is 5 out of 5, which is what they deem as on their website as perfect. This is what they have to say. "Without a final Xbox One sample, it's impossible to know whether the PlayStation 4 is a runaway winner of the next-gen console battle as many people are proclaiming, but what we do know is that it's an absolutely cracking console. Delivering on the next-gen promise of 1080p gaming and digital distribution are the core of things, but that's backed up by a super slick UI which feels live and interactive and delivers the content you want with a degree of snappiness that the previous generation couldn't even get close to. Adds standout features such as remote play, which is really terrific, and you've got a massively strong launch for the PlayStation 4, and it will only get better as more games, apps and features are released. Over to you, Microsoft." Stuff TV were very strong and aggressive in the way that they presented the PlayStation 4, and their wording specifically showed that. They were very powerful that they believed that the PlayStation 4 was an incredible console. Although they hadn't deemed it the winner of the next generation console battle, they were definitely certain that this system A had a lot of potential to show, and B is an already amazing system, or as they said, cracking. Next we move on to Polygon, who gave the PlayStation 4 a 7.5 out of 10. Now it isn't perfection, but at least it's something for Sony to look at, and they gave this description. The PlayStation 4 hints at plenty of other possibilities. Local network play via the PS Vita has an enormous amount of potential. The PlayStation app and even the PlayStation camera may provide opportunities for developers to broaden the appeal of the PS4 beyond its hardcore audience it already seems so intent on courting. Unlike the PlayStation 3, Sony's latest effort was built to evolve, but the PlayStation 4's focus on gaming, and only gaming, is undermined by the distinct lack of compelling software. That failing is sure to improve. Better games and more of them will appeal on the PlayStation 4. But right now, this is a games console without a game to recommend it. Early adopters of the PS4 this fall are buying potential energy. We're just waiting for a place to spend it. Now, Polygon's review is quite interesting. Now, it understands that there's a lot of potential with the PlayStation 4, but that kind of makes them sort of upset in the sense that A, didn't give it a great score. Well, in terms of console, 7.5 isn't great. And the fact that they just didn't have the kind of vibe of positivity that other networks or places did before. Now, it's not that they're saying that the system is bad, it's just that they feel as though there is a lack of a lineup at the start, which is something that's quite important, and lack of just software in general, which would make it an overly more better system. Although this isn't a negative review, it's certainly something Sony might want to think about the next time they try to release a console. Moving on now to CNET, who had a strange review score just in general. The editors themselves gave the PlayStation 4 a 3.5 out of 5, whereas the users themselves actually gave it a 4 out of 5. It's a strange mixture of results, but CNET certainly has something positive to say about the system. For good, the PlayStation 4 serves up dazzling graphics, runs on a simplified and logical interface, and boasts a fantastic controller. It's also $100 cheaper than rival Xbox One, and has the upper hand on indie and day one digital offerings. The bad: AAA titles are lacking at launch, and the PlayStation 4 won't come close to matching its predecessor's gaming or software library for months, or possibly years. PlayStation 3 games aren't compatible, though Sony is hinting that the Gakkai game streaming service will open the door to retro gaming in 2014. The PS4 also has no DLNA compatibility or media playback support, which made its predecessor such a great all-round content player. The bottom line: the PlayStation 4 has beautiful graphics, blazing interface, and near perfect controller make it a worthy successor to the PlayStation 3, but it would be wise to wait for more titles and features before you buy. Now, CNET kind of have the same idea that a lot of people are throwing right now. Sure, there's some good, there's some bad, but the thing is that a lot of the bad is going to be fixed within the next month, practically, or next couple of weeks or months, and generally they're doing what I've considered and what I've said that I'm probably going to do as well, is just wait. Now, buying a PlayStation 4 at launch is not necessarily a bad thing, buying anything at launch is not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel as though just sitting back, letting certain things just fall into place, letting certain games come out, and then purchasing the console is probably your best idea. And if you want a very enjoyable Christmas, the PlayStation 4 is probably looking like a fantastic gift. Now that's it for the reviews, and overall the PlayStation 4 is building a positive vibe. Not only is it a great release console, but it also has a lot of potential and power that's going to make it everlasting, and more importantly just a great system to play in general. Now it's time to move on to some of the facts and some of the opinions that have been going around, and this is something that's quite important. Now, the first fact to be mentioned is that Sony Computer Entertainment said it sold 1 million PlayStation 4 systems in 24 hours after they came available on Friday in the United States and Canada, with many of those representing pre-order purchases, which is a great statistic for Sony in general. 1 million sales in 24 hours is fairly awesome considering this is a console, and in all honesty, it is quite expensive for some people. Problems: it has a blinking blue light and doesn't turn on sometimes, which is something that's been reported quite widely. Although this is something I quite want to exacerbate, is that you shouldn't really just read the news and think, oh, the PlayStation 4 is broken or there's something wrong with it. And the fact is that despite all the problems that the PlayStation 4 has, it has the lowest defect rate of any console ever released so far. The Xbox 360 when first released had a 16% defect rate, including things such as the Red Ring of Doom. The Wii had a 3% defect rate alongside the PlayStation 3, whereas the PlayStation 4 so far only has 0.4%. Now considering that is the whole of the United States and Canada, that's a pretty good percentage to be holding right now. Other problems also include no audio or video through the HDMI, unstable games, which is what EA has pointed out. They feel as though the 1.5 software update actually made games unstable rather than fixing or preventing bugs, but that's being fixed on within the next couple of weeks. And there is a piece of metal in the HDMI port in some systems, which is actually blocking you from putting it in. Now, if you do happen to be one of the 0.4% which has suffered part of this defect rate of the consoles, do please contact Sony. They will do their best to fix it for you, and I have heard of stories of which they have sent out new consoles or provided a way for you to get yours sorted out and repair it. However, if you are the kind of professional who has their toolbox at the ready, there are lots of videos online which can support you in either fixing the problems, whether it be software or hardware, including specifically the piece of metal in a HDMI port. Now, I don't endorse that because if you seriously don't know what you're doing, just don't touch it because you might break it even more, and obviously that may void your warranty, so definitely be careful with what you're doing. Now, overall, the PlayStation 4's launch has been a generally good vibe with lots and lots of good news coming in and lots of potential. Now, the same thing's going to possibly happen to the Xbox One. They may or may not have a successful launch like Sony did, and that will definitely be here on Viso Games within the next coming weeks. And if you're still umming and ahhing about what system you want to get, feel free to head back to the main channel and check out our Xbox One versus PlayStation 4 series, which will give you some details and facts as to what the new consoles are doing. And finally, make sure you subscribe to Viso Games because within the next coming weeks, as I mentioned, Xbox One content will be heading your way where we will also round up the review scores of the system and give you the overall vibe and idea of what's going on. So guys, it's been me, Lachlan, and Viso Games. We'll see you again very soon.